Minister, as you know, a plebiscite was held in 2019 in 3 city areas to decide on the issue of possibly a directly elected mayor. And Waterford was one of those, and I voted in that, and I voted actually against the proposal at the time. And I suppose what I couldn't understand was exactly what this person was going to be doing in terms of the way the job was being framed. And what I saw, in essence, was a job that was where people were being given accountability, but not the authority to get things done. And I'm not sure if that's not still the position at the moment. I'm not going to speak at length on this bill because others have highlighted a lot of the inadequacies on it. But I'm quite happy as a Waterford man now to sit back and let Limerick implement this policy and see how it goes. That's what I think we should do because, and I understand there's a number of amendments to be tabled at possibly at report stage, but it will be interesting to see how this goes because if I take my local authority in Waterford, and I think people would know this in the House, we have a very dynamic chief executive down there. And the idea that we would just go out possibly and pluck somebody from the council body, and we have very, very able-bodied people there, but would they have that skill set? And that's a question I'd ask for any local authority who is taking this on, because to me it appears anybody can stand for election, they can nominate themselves, potentially they can get elected, and ultimately you're now giving them the responsibility for framing the strategic management policy of the authority going forward. And certainly there is accountability because they can be voted out, unlike some of the chief executives and some of the other officers of the local authority. But it does speak to me that, I think these are very serious positions, and that's been recognised in terms of the remuneration on offer, that equivalent to a Minister of State. And certainly the Mayor can take on programme managers and advisors, and that's all very helpful. But I think that there has to be a bit more head-scratching done regarding this legislation. It's more about the spirit of the legislation is possibly fine. But in actual fact, when you get down to the reality in terms of the quality of the people that might be thrown into this position, I think there's a significant cause for concern here, Minister. The other thing I notice, Minister, is in terms of the election expenses that are allowable to this office. It seems that anybody who's going for the mayoral programme can spend up to €72,000 in recoupable expenses, unlike a TD. And that suggests, and it seems an awful lot of money, by the way, to put into this programme. Okay, based on two constituencies, but just the same, it seems like a lot of money to put in to an election of this sort, and it does beg the question, is the person who can raise more money, are they in a better position to be elected potentially than somebody who can't? And that again speaks to the ability of people to do this job. And I just wonder as well how the division of labour, if you want to call it that, within the local authority is really going to work. On the one hand, you've got somebody who is essentially describing the strategic ambition that they have come up with. And then you go to another officer to actually, who potentially may not buy into that at all, but their job is to execute it. And I fail to see how that is going to work in terms of management structure and theory, because I know from my own time in council, oftentimes you would have very different aspirations between the council body and the executive body. And so look, I think there's work to be done here. As I said, I'm in the enviable position, as we in Waterford are, that we can sit back now and let Limerick, who voted for this, and Cork didn't, by the way, as well you're aware, and I've heard other deputies describing that Dublin should have this, and maybe Dublin should have it. But I'm quite happy with the position that we have at the moment. What I do think we need to do is stop devolving powers from our councillors, Minister. And I think that's just as important. The councillors are getting less and less power, and I know people around the country feel, what is the function of councillors, but they don't actually spend enough time talking to them. And the councillors, certainly that I know in Waterford, are extremely busy and extremely diligent to their task. But I think that's an area that needs to be looked at. But anyway, Minister, as I say, I'm happy to let Limerick off with this one and see where we get to. It'll be interesting to see the amendments, and if it's successful, I'll certainly in the future promote its idea. Good, let's go.